What are doctoral programs not telling you about? I want to talk about that today. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm an associate professor of innovation and strategy, and I wanted to give back as much as I possibly can. So I want to talk about that today. What aren't they talking about? To be honest, they're really not talking about that it is incredibly difficult to get a job after almost all doctoral programs. Now, what they'll do is they'll list these are the top candidates and where they went to. And you'll see some highfalutin schools that some people went to, right? You probably are well aware of that at this moment. They'll also tell you what the average salary is of the people that were in this particular pool. And they'll go to a particular fancy place and you'll see these great salaries and all these kind of things. But what they're not talking about is the number of people that actually start and don't finish. They're also not talking about the number of people that finish a PhD degree and then they get out and they work for a couple of years and stop. They're not talking about the competitive nature of the whole entire process. They're also not talking about is that PhD degrees are getting harder every single day. And it's all of this is because it's becoming a more, there's more people that you have to vie for in compete against for the same amount of resources in the short term. And I know that this is a challenging thing for people to hear, but it's getting increasingly more and more difficult to get a job with just a few years. It's virtually impossible and unheard of to get a job after 3 to 4 years of doing a PhD program. Now it's 5, 6, 7, 8, where people are actually getting their degrees. It's becoming longer and longer and longer and longer. And it's also becoming more difficult to actually succeed in the profession. Now, there's lots of things that are going on that are driving this in many different sort of factors. But the truth is, it is hard to actually get a degree. And it's really, really hard to get a job at the end of it. And so if you look at the number of people that go into PhD programs, they probably shouldn't be in it. In fact, there should be a lot of people that should second guess whether they should do it, and they're not serious enough about it. And I know that this is hard medicine to take, and lots of people are going to be upset with me, but I strongly believe that we should prevent people from getting into PhD programs in all areas. I'm specifically talking about business at this moment, and I'm thinking about business. But business is one of the more lucrative areas. There are many, many other areas that you can go do a PhD in a doctorate degree in, and they're more difficult. They're more challenging. They have all sorts of other things. And now you might be thinking, well, that's not me. Well, I want you to think about the pecking order that happens, right? So universities have a very strong pecking order. The hiring process has a strong pecking order. It is what it is at this moment, and I don't like it, but this is the way that it actually works, is that if you graduate from a top program like Harvard or Princeton or something like that, then you have a pretty good chance of actually getting jobs at decent places. But if you don't graduate from a place like that, good luck. It becomes increasingly more difficult for you to actually get a job. And you might be thinking, well, I'm going to do a PhD to go into industry. Well, there's stigma. There's a great deal of stigma moving from doing a research career in academia to industry. And so lots of people choose not to do that. And they feel pressure. They feel all sorts of things where they just don't want to move into something else. And that's why I'm actually I do not like the tenure system because of this. And I know that it has implications on free speech and all of those kind of things. It's because that people get stuck in inferior outcomes, and they want to stay there and they want to defend those particular turfs. I think it's actually going to be positive to change the tenure system to remove that possibility. Simply because, and I know that this is hard to take because there's many talented people that I'm tenured. There's many talented people that I think the tenure system helps, but there's many other people that hinder it. And they should be able to freely flow between jobs without any social stigma or anything like that. So what's happening is that the program, universally across the board is becoming more competitive and more difficult to actually get resources to succeed, not only in the sense that, hey, there is just less jobs out there, but the actual research, what we do, gets more rigorous, more difficult every single day. If you look at, I've seen several studies where if you just compare what we were doing, and you can go and read it, if you compare what research looked like from the 1980s to what it is today, there's no comparison. It's just so fundamentally more difficult today than it was in the 1980s. And that's good. That means we have more valid and reliable science. That's great. But what the implication is, it's hard to get a job at the end of it because you have to compete with significantly less resources than what everybody used to compete with, but also within a market that is much, much more competitive and difficult to deal with. So across the board, if you're able to freely flow between different positions and all those kind of things, then it's fine, right? Like that is actually a positive thing. You want to train people, but there's artificial sort of social barriers that prevent people to freely flow between different positions where they can actually capitalize on the benefit that they consume or that they were trained for, right? And you need to know this when you come in, that it's extremely competitive, and your chance of getting a job that you're thinking about, like getting a job. So for example, at an institution like University of Michigan, or you might have heard any brand name university, your chance of getting a job at those particular places that you've heard of, that they have a football team and all that kind of stuff, is very, very slim. And there's only a few people that can actually get those jobs. And there's lots of, and if you look at them, I just want you to physically look. Go to the program that you're interested in. So you're interested in anthropology. Go to a school that you're like, I could see myself working there. Look at the faculty that are on there and look at their position. Look at where they went and did their PhD. Look at the publications they have, like all of this kind of stuff. If you look at them, you will realize, wait a minute, this is crazy, right? So to get a job at University of Michigan, I guarantee half those people did their PhDs at Princeton or Harvard or whatever, right? If not more. It's very difficult to start from some place that you're like, okay, this is a moderate place, and move up. Is way much more easier to go down. And everybody knows this. The whole academic system knows this. And when you're in it, you realize it within the first couple of years of oof. And then what also happens is that resources flow to the top programs and the top places. And so there is great barriers for you to excel. So before you decide, and this is universal truth across everybody, before you decide that you should do a PhD program, just be well aware of that. It's going to be a really difficult time. And many of you that will watch this will not be able to get jobs. Many of you will go through significant sort of moments in your life where you're like, I don't know what to do. In fact, everybody does that when they do a PhD program. But there's so much difficulty that you face. You have to know that you're going to face that coming in before you actually do it. You have to be well aware of that. So that's it. That's the key thing. That's what they're not telling you. It is a lot more difficult to get a job at the end of it than all of us will ever tell you. And you simply, and the thing is, here's the thing. That's what we all deal with. I'm a tenured professor. That's what I deal with personally. That's what somebody else deals with that's in the same boat. We are all in the same boat, facing the same economic conditions in the field that we're actually in. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. All right, take care. Bye.